Welcome to the show that explores the methods and strategies on rocking the financial side of your music business. With over 40 years combined experience, here are your hosts, Chris Webb and Dave Tampkin.
Welcome to Musician's Tip Jar, where we talk about musicians and money, where we focus on putting pressure on the progress, not on the perfection. I'm Chris Webb, joined by my co-host and the man who's always under pressure to be funny, Dave Tampkin.
You think I put myself under that type of pressure?
Just the world around you expects it from you. You've been holding it up for so long.
I think most people are mostly annoyed by it. So maybe always under pressure to be annoying, Dave Tampkin.
That's an interesting type of pressure.
Well, I'm definitely under pressure for this episode because when you sent this idea over and we went through these steps, I'm in a lot of trouble. I'm looking forward to this because I'm going to be brutally honest to myself.
Nice.
And open, and we'll just go from there. I'm already sweating a little bit. This fog up, it's because I sweat through my eyeballs.
Well, today we get to discuss 6 measures to help you keep a clear understanding of your progress as an artist and in your business. We discuss some easy strategies that can help keep your confidence that you are headed to achieving your goals. Today's quote comes from J. Cole. "My music is a reflection of my growth. I'm just documenting the progress."
Today's nonprofit is Backline.care. Backline has vetted organizations across the globe to create a network of care providers that support the music industry by providing access to healthcare, financial assistance, treatment options, and more. You may be qualified to receive free services through these programs. If you're not sure, connect with a case manager and they'll find you the best options. Learn more at backline.care. If you find this information useful, please rate and subscribe to the podcast and also slam or gently hover over that like button if you're on YouTube so we can help you up on the finance side of your music business.
We all need some sort of barometer to measure our progress. We cannot expect there to always be clear signs of progress right out in the open. So, we find this list of 6 things to be a useful gauge to assessing your progress in real time. Let's go.
Do you know how to assess your real voice? How to find your true inner voice? Right there. That was it. Take a deep breath and just let it out.
The musician's ohm.
And then as soon as you should be talking in that register. So I think more of the podcast moving forward, Chris, I'm going to sound more like this because honestly, this is just truly the way I sound. And I learned that going through these 6 steps.
You know, it's funny. I just got back from spending some time in Europe. And I noticed that when you're around a lot of people that are speaking a different language and you mostly don't understand what they're saying, you really start to notice the way they talk, like the tone. At least this is how I was starting to put my focus, was more on their inflection and, you know, their pitch and how fast they talk and the energy underneath it. And it was really interesting to kind of like be able to turn off the actual words and listen to people's inflections and undertones.
Do you ever unconsciously start to mimic that?
Oh, totally. Well, by the time we were leaving London, which obviously is speaking English, but with their charm of an accent, we were all trying to speak with the British accent. It's quite fun, actually, because then you go to other countries where they speak other languages and you get to pretend like you're a Brit. And they all probably know we're totally faking it, but we had a good time.
Well, good. I can't wait to hear more about it.
Well, it's really important, this discussion about measuring your progress, not because we want you to be concerned that you're not moving forward, but we actually want to make sure that you feel okay with the progress that you're making, that you feel like you're at peace with the progress you're making. Because sometimes it can become so overwhelming that you feel like you're not getting anywhere, that you stop getting anywhere. So what we're here to do is talk about some ways that you can systematically look at your progress as an artist and as a music business and find ways that you can implement little strategies to help move yourself forward and to make sure that you feel good about the progress you're making.
And a few different niches as well, because again, talking about being honest, not playing so much since I moved to Madison has been an eye-opening experience as far as how much I loved playing live and how much I also gauged myself on progress as a musician by playing live. And if that goes away, then what am I gauging improvement on? So that's why this was such a kick in the pants.
Well, maybe we start with the first one then, because this one you can do from anywhere. Let's start with talking about skill mastery. Every breakthrough in your career begins with the mastery of your craft. Regularly assess how much you've improved in your core musical skills, whether that's your vocal control, your instrumental proficiency, your production techniques, or songwriting structure. It's sometimes that you get so comfortable doing what you're doing that you kind of stop moving forward. At least that's where you get to after a long while. Maybe at the beginning, this is an irrelevant thing to say, but after you've been playing for a long time, it's quite easy just to sit around with what the skills that you already have and not keep pushing yourself forward.
Are there any tools you use that you can think of, like right out of the gate, that you use to brush up on techniques or learn new ones?
You know, it's funny because I still use Ultimate Guitar for a lot of different areas of my business. And I love the social aspect that they added to it because you can watch other people playing the cover that maybe you're trying to practice or the solo that you're working on. Or then they have riffs and scales that you can kind of, exercises that you can just throw one in. I like things that are real quick for me on those. I like to have I usually do it like right after I've tuned my guitar and I'm warming up right before a show or right, and I'm changing the strings and then I'll just spend a little extra 20 minutes doing it. So I usually use Ultimate Guitar almost every time for my guitar practice stuff.
For my guitar stuff, pickupmusic.com is awesome. It's very cheap monthly and they have like weekly courses. So since I've been home and not playing as much and want to learn new things, it's really helped me look forward to showing up to something new every day. But it doesn't have to be something you're paying for. So even something like free on YouTube or Coursera, what else? Sound Gym, they all offer powerful free lessons. So you could build like a playlist that you just go through every week. These are channels that here's my beginning channels. Here's something that's going to push me a little bit harder. Here's my vocal runs that I want to learn this week. So I've been doing that.
That's great. And that is really important that people do hear that we're not saying go sign up for something that you pay a bunch of money for. I mean, unless that's going to be the motivator to make you use it, it's really not necessary. There are so many resources that are just absolutely free. And all you need is a little bit, right? We're not saying go take a master class on virtuoso guitar playing. Like we want you just to move forward a little bit. That's what we're talking, those little mini gauges of how we're progressing towards that bigger goal that's a long ways away. This also, for me, can be specific about what it is you're doing. For example, with me, I perform a lot of cover shows and I'm usually solo. So what I've been focusing on now is how does the guitar part and my vocal part fit together, in a very intricate way. Like how can I get the bass, because I do a lot of looping, how can I get that bass part and that drum part, because I bang on my guitar to make the percussion noises, and how do I get them to line up and mimic what a good drummer and bass player would do. So in a way, I'm learning their instruments, or at least how they orchestrate their instruments and implement their parts into the song. And then I focus on how that lines up with my vocal part. I also will often focus on how do I elongate lines so that they contrast the guitar part that might be more staccato, things like that are layering interest into a person playing by themselves. So when you're looking at this concept of skill mastery, it may not be that you need to just sit down and practice the instrument itself. It may be that you're practicing something more specific to the target in which you're headed as an artist.
And don't be afraid to take it one measure at a time. And that was something I was telling you when I was visiting CU, that I was learning some more, finger picking Beatles, because I thought, if I could just give my voice a rest now and then on these long shows, that I can just play something cool. And I was so stumped on some of the stuff that I thought I was going to just fly through this book. I'm like, no, time to start over. One measure. That's all I need to learn. One measure, memorize it, get it, move on to the second one. So I'm sure for all those little intricacies that you're working on with bass parts, loop in drum parts, you're not throwing everything at it at once. You're dividing up those pieces one by one, nailing it, and then adding another layer.
That's great. And when you're assessing whether or not you're doing this or making progress, perhaps we can look at that as saying, not just did I learn a new skill this week, or you can ask yourself more, did I make time to even try to do that? And that can be enough. It can be just that you scheduled the time, or you booked a private lesson for a specific goal, or you dedicated a certain amount of your practice time to this new thing that you're adding to that list. So it really doesn't need to be anything large. These are just small improvements that, and they compound. They create a progress that becomes more of a steamroller and gets you there quicker.
I use that. I know you love it when I bring up streaks, but I use that streaks app just to make sure that I'm hitting, my touch points each week. And you could switch things up, like take 30 days. Pick one area where it's vocal runs, one is, beat production or lyric structure, and write it down. If you're not using an app, journal about it. Write down what you practice, how long you practice, how you felt about it. It kind of builds accountability, and then also lets you reflect on what you're just not aiming to get better, but you're saying, okay, I'm going to nail this harmony. Again, I'm going to nail this solo, or I'm going to nail this measure. And, they'll start to add up after a while.
Mm-hmm. I would like to add one more to that too, that you made me think of, which is that when you're performing or delivering in your recordings or whatever you're doing as an artist, that you also work on the mental state in which you are staying in during the performance. I really think it's important. And the more that I teach, the more that I realize we all need to make this a conscious effort as well, that we're focused on not panicking, in the moment when that solo comes up and you've been practicing all day in your room or whatever. And now you get on stage and here you are, take that solo, and you panic and your fingers forget what they're doing and you start sweating and everything goes to shit because that moment didn't have that practice of the mental part. And so I just want to throw that in there, is that you don't always have to be practicing the instrument. It could be practicing how you are playing that instrument in the environment in which you are capable of staying calm and focused. All right, so moving on. Let's go to the second one here. Second one is about creative output. So creative momentum is the engine behind sustainable music careers. I mean, look at how frequently you write and record and release music. And this is a really important thing to talk about in that micro level, because it will add up if you're doing small things towards this. And part of the time when we're feeling so inadequate with our progress, it's because we're expecting large results. I need to put out a new album, or even the song, like to take it from such a huge chunk these days completely derails any motivation because you feel overwhelmed. So Dave, how about you? Are you finishing more songs, or are you sharing more work than you did last year? What's the progress?
You already know the answer to that, Chris. I'm lacking songs for probably 2 to 3 years now. Megan Burt called us out on it, said it's just a few verses and a chorus that repeats itself. So I'm not stuck doing nothing or being so scared of the writing process. I thought that because of these thoughtful pauses that I'm doing as far as signs to grow, it's not just the number of tracks that I'm releasing, it's the quality of what I can bring to the new tracks when they come. So I'm trying to take this time to progress, on my musicality, so that when the work does come as far as being creative writing songs, it's more intentional work, and I'm not so scared of it. Because as we do get older and change through seasons of our lives, it's our song shift, our style shifts, the emotional depth of what we bring to each song shifts. You just have to have the courage to share what's real, which I'm a little bit of, scared shitless to do that right now. So once I get over that, hopefully it's something worth putting out for myself.
Yeah, and I've learned this too, that I don't beat myself up anymore when I go through a phase of not feeling like writing or just not writing. in my note app, I always keep notes of ideas, of song ideas, of lyric ideas, of, little themes, whatever. And so I always have that to draw on. And so that helps me so that when I sit down during my scheduled times to write, I have something to do. What I've really learned for myself is that now, and this didn't used to happen when I was younger, but now I don't always feel like writing. Before it was impulsive. I would skip other things because of the need to write. And that is a phase in life that I guess doesn't always stick around, or maybe it'll come back. But in this phase of my life, I've had to really schedule my writing. And the other thing I'll say about that for when it comes to songwriting, and I know everyone has different types of creative output, but when I'm writing a song now, I even dumb it down past what Megan said with the a couple verses and a chorus. I literally would just write one verse and a chorus. And I'm like, I wrote a song.
Yeah,
Because if I want to finish it, I know I can after that. But that usually counts for me as a song nowadays. And it also makes it more achievable to just write one. I can write a song now, and I'm sure you could too if I made you. You could write a song in a couple minutes. You really could. It doesn't have to be great. We have to allow whatever comes out to be enough sometimes, especially when you don't feel like spending the extra time on making it even better.
Stephen Pressfield wrote The War of Art. And in the first few chapters, he talks about how he was doing anything he possibly could instead of writing his books. So one night, his whole kitchen was just mess with pots and pans stacked up for weeks. And he finished it all, and he sat down at his typewriter and he started typing. And he's like, I'm going to be okay. And I feel right now I'm going through a phase that I'm doing anything possible other than writing the song, like two bass guitars that I love playing right now, a tin whistle. When am I going to use that? I don't know, but I'm going to drive Ann nuts practicing that on a daily basis. I've been doing more, harmonica. I bought another Beatles harmonica book. So I thought, if I could get the chords down, maybe I could just do the melody with the harmonica. So I am at least moving in the right direction of the things that I think once I get there and be like, okay, I'm going to be okay. Because it's not dishes. It's just musical stuff that I feel like the learning curve is less steep for me because I've been a musician for so many years. So I pick up a bass. I'm like, look how, this is all right. I feel like I'm making progress when really I'm just stalling.
Is that why Anne was asking why you were on the roof putting up Christmas lights in July the other day?
That is true. I just want to be prepared.
Yeah, right. Just anything else you can do.
Yeah.
I saw this on somebody's TikTok video talking about procrastination. And I've used it a few times, so I might as well share it. But when I'm finding myself, and I always have that list of things to do too, including writing, and I don't feel like doing them. And this is how he explained it on this video, is that you basically need to lay there and absolutely do nothing. Like no phone, you're not allowed to talk to anyone. You just need to sit there doing nothing. And then all of a sudden you're like, I got to do something. And you'll get up and you'll do whatever it was that you were putting off. It actually has worked for me. So it's worth a shot for everyone to try.
Well, I'll take that advice. I'll take any advice right now. I did write something down that I just want to read verbatim for this to end this section. And it's what I keep going back to as far as when we first started writing songs. So I put, don't just measure your creativity by completed songs. Track how often you create, what you try, what risks you take, and how your sound evolves. Again, these are all things I'm writing just to make myself feel better about doing nothing. That's where your voice as an artist is born. The fact that you're tracking this means you're already doing more than most. The work you do behind the scenes matter, even when no one hears it. And that is where we all started anyway, when we did not have an audience. That when we picked it up for the pure love of learning the instrument and creating sounds that we can relate to. Hopefully that hits home with some people.
Yeah, it's nice. And it really is important to remember that we're not doing this for anyone else but ourselves, no matter what. In the end, you're going to gain and lose fans. You're going to impress some people and turn some people off. You're going to be disappointed with how many people show up at more shows someday. I'm even seeing bands that were massively successful for the last couple of decades, and I'm watching them friends bands that are not able to draw what they used to draw. I mean, everything has a cycle, everything has an end, and we can easily be discouraged if we put too much importance on anything external.
Especially if you do this for a living, it's difficult because what you started without a monetary return was just priceless. It was art. It was for the love of it. And then once that starts giving you a career, all those things you created for the pure love of it. And now you're like, I have this audience that I need to show up for. I need to sell these tickets. Oh, hopefully they'll dig these songs too. If you get into that mind space, you're screwed. Mm-hmm. It's like you almost have to wash that away and hope that your audience goes on this journey with you as your music develops and your craft develops.
Yeah, or at least someone does.
Yeah.
Right? Because, I mean, really, if it's just for you, in the end, you have nothing to lose, right? Except you do want to share it. There's always that urge, but the expectation that everyone's going to love it every time is just unfair to you.
Yeah. Well, number 3 is live performance. And this is what I love most about playing music. The ability to connect with a live audience, I feel is something that I excel at only because I love it so much. Like I really just love getting up there and entertaining. And performing live is about connection, not perfection. So the real energy of a live show is one of the clearest indicators of your progress when it comes to a career, I believe. So it's just not the technicality that we were talking about before, which again, I am, 3 chords and a red guitar and the truth. So I'm not doing anything too crazy technically anyway, but emotionally and professionally, that's where the technicality comes in to say, hey, am I improving on how I'm emotionally delivered to an audience?
And that really goes back to my focus on me and my skills. They all start to overlap, right? Like if I'm showing up at a show and I know I've practiced certain new things, I'm more excited to be there for that live performance. If I've got new music to play, I'm more excited. I'm finding ways to pull that excitement into me because I know that if it's there, everyone is going to feel it, And so when I think of live performance right now, I really want people to think about how much you're showing up with that excitement. It's a really dangerous thing to get into a situation where you're playing shows that you are not happy about. And if that is happening, I'm not saying cancel those gigs because you might need the money, but I'm saying find ways to integrate some excitement back into your soul for those situations because it's really important in order to be a great performer.
We've both been there plenty of times.
Plenty of times, and everyone will be. I guarantee you that you too, not I'm saying you too, I'm saying the band, you too, has felt this 100,000 times with all these songs that they've played over and over again. Despite the fact that people keep showing up, there are plenty of moments that any band, any artist is going to have these feelings about the situation. Just like writing, it's something that doesn't always feel like you feel like doing it. It's just a thing that you have to learn to be professional about. I'm in a stretch right now of 9 shows in 8 days, and then I get Father's Day off, and then I'm in another 5 shows in 7 days. And so I'm in this long stretch of playing every night. And a lot of these are really important. I say important only to say that like they're some of my exclusive type of gigs where they're more financially rewarding, but they also take a little bit more commitment and energy out of me. And I was playing the other night and I started talking in the audience and I remembered all of a sudden, I was like, this is not the place to talk because it was a corporate gig. And sometimes that line gets kind of diluted when people start engaging with you and you want to make it into a show where it's about you. And then you have to remember to turn it off. So sometimes for me, like live performing has these different faces, I'm putting on a different face for different types of shows. And I start to get to know them each better. And those change in what gear I bring, what set list I play, obviously. and how you dress and everything about the show is different, and there's different categories in which you're aware of. So when I think about moving forward as a performer, it's more about me showing up in those different environments and being the absolute professional, being the one that they want, that they need to have back next time for that particular type of event.
I was hired with Brian and Brad 2 weeks ago for Hard Rock Casino, and it's 3 hours as a band on a stage in front of everybody with a big monitor of all our faces behind us. There's no time for long lulls in between songs. You are performing for 2 hour and 20-minute sets, which I am not used to at all. And we weren't used to making set lists because 45 minutes is one thing, you can memorize it, but 3 hours, after a while, it's kind of fun to throw things out and be like, what do you want to play next? What do you want to play next? And we would kind of go around and do that. We did not want to do that for this. And mentally, it was different for me to be on top of it, when to talk. Brad has, detuned something. So I need to make sure that I'm talking during that time, so there's not a lull. There was just so many different factors that I was out of practice on that I knew I better be prepared for when it came to that show.
That brings up the other aspect too that I think is really important as performers, and this is something that as an instructor I bring up a lot, is that live performance for me is all about dynamics, and delivery, emotional delivery organically has so much dynamic variation, and so often it doesn't show up or translate in people's delivery in performances. And for me, it is the number one thing that separates professionals from everyone that's trying to get there, right? And I think if there's anything that I think everyone could always be spending a little time on, is focusing on your dynamics. And it doesn't always mean getting louder or quieter. It can be the hit or how hard you're hitting something. It could be how you're attacking the instrument while you're singing. It could be obviously in the delivery or the over pronunciation of the words, or it can be the way that you just are expressing the moment. Like if you're moving around and you're very animated with your movements. So there is a lot of various ways of talking about dynamics, but is usually the area where everyone needs to spend a little time on.
That's a lot to ask yourself to even remember all that stuff going through it. I don't know about you, but sometimes I black out and I'm just, on autopilot. So I would advise record yourself any chance you get. If you can see your set and look back and kind of watch the ups and downs and the roller coasters that you want to take your songs on and your audience on. Find a couple of your performances each month, watch with a friend. Don't show Chris Webb because, he'll be brutally honest and you'll learn something, things you don't want to hear about yourself, but it'll only make you better. But you'll leave going, damn it, why does he have to be so honest? I have another friend, Christopher Morse, who's a songwriter in Boulder, and he's brutally honest, and he's taught me to be brutally honest with him, but it's fun. And we're down to, why do you have your cell phone in your front pocket? You're filming this for your YouTube later and all this live show. You got this, and you have your cell phone in your front pocket. It's just little stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
They'll tell me that Brad, Chad, and I do a really good job of talking in between songs, but we never engage with each other while we're playing.
Mm.
And that's something you have to pay attention to, something I would have never even thought of. So it's nice to have a friend that you could rattle stuff off with.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we could go on forever about live performance stuff, because truthfully, there is so many various ways that you got to be focused on improving. And it all depends on what you're trying to do as an artist. And it also depends on what types of shows you're playing. So if you're with a band, or if you're solo, or if you're traveling, there's just so many ways that we can discuss that. But let's just move forward to the next one to keep everyone's attention. The next one is industry knowledge. Music is also a business. Staying educated and adaptable is a key factor in progressing as an artist in the music industry. It's not just about learning the jargon. It's also about control and having longevity in this career.
And we wanted to do it so bad, we started a podcast that we don't know everything about the industry. We wanted to learn more about it. So we thought, hey, let's show up, share what we've learned throughout the years, and hopefully learn from our peers and everyone that writes us.
And again, we're not saying go learn the business, because that's the worst advice anyone could ever give you, because it's so massive. Even within each country, it's a massive difference in how the business functions, all the different rules within all of the different areas of the money flowing. So it really is about learning one thing that really will help you progress, right? Do you understand the royalties and how they get paid out? Do you understand publishing? Do you understand how contracts can actually protect you, like they did last night for me when I was playing a show? They tried to put me out in the open, and I could tell there might be coming some rain, and we were outside, and I said, here's it in the contract. It says right here, I have to be under shelter. And they accommodated because it was a signed contract. I don't think I would have had that leverage with a big venue like that if I hadn't had that signed contract. So things like that.
Did they give you a tin roof shelter?
No, actually, no. What do you mean? Sorry.
Just you're set electrifying.
Oh.
Storm coming. That's a lightning joke.
I know you're under a lot of pressure to be funny.
Yeah, yeah. There we're gonna go. We start this whole episode over.
The other thing that I could say about last night too, with that situation and types of situations like that, is like, are you confident in negotiating? Are you going to stand up for yourself when you need help? Are you going to advocate for your safety and your safety of your business? So, there's lots of different ways that we can look at that. In connections, like, are you making connections? Are you growing your network? Joining organizations? Are you attending events and industry types of gatherings so that you can continue expanding your community?
I haven't found something like that in Madison, and I wanted to talk to you about that because I think I might start a meetup.
There you go.
Just to see what happens.
Yeah, you should do that.
Okay. Well, I'm glad we had this talk.
See how things happen around here?
Yeah.
Done. Knowledge directly supports smarter decisions, and they also improve the odds for long-term sustainability. We always say this, but you cannot do this business alone, and the industry is out there functioning whether you do anything or not, right? It isn't there waiting for you. And so we have to remember that I do think that there's a dangerous mindset that often, and I was in this for a long time, where you think someone's going to come save you, right? Someone's coming to take care of the things that you're just not doing and getting you to where you think you really potentially could be. That's not going to happen. and I'm sorry to be the angry uncle on that, but it ain't going to happen. They're not coming. You have to do this. You have to go find people. You have to create those opportunities. You have to improve your knowledge and expand your ability to represent yourself to get to those positions in which you're capable of.
And you don't have to go towards everything at once. Spend 30 days, pick a topic, learn about sync licensing. Take 1 month, learn about social media. 1 month, learn about email development and marketing.
And this is one of those things, again, where you don't need to go spend money on a course if you don't want to. You can literally find a different YouTube video that would have some helpful information on it every day that could take up that 30-minute drive and give you that information during that 1 month that you're focused on that one thing, just to improve your knowledge.
Are there any newsletters or podcasts you recommend? First one comes to mind. It's called Musicians Tip Jar. They have a pretty cool website, pretty cool podcast. You're going to notice they're going to be talking a little sultry in the next few episodes, trying to find
you're right in your zone.
Real voice. But Damien Kies, Ari Herstead, I mean, he's awesome. He's got plethora of awesome stuff that
Ari's take.
Yeah, it's awesome. And even ASCAP, CD Baby, Bandzoogle, the MLC, all of those have great backstage resources.
Yeah. And I guess this could be summed up with saying that if you're struggling to find the information, That's another reason you need your community, because here we are listing all these things like the ASCAP and BMI and all these different PROs. They have so much time and energy and funding put towards free resources for their community. And everything you need is already out there. It really is. We say this all the time, but sometimes it's waiting for you to ask. The next one, probably the area that I think I'm the weakest in, is fan engagement. In today's music industry, engagement is our most valuable currency. It's not about having the most followers. It's about building real connections with the ones that you do have. You can use these following signs to measure your fan engagement. Are people consistently commenting, messaging, or resharing your posts? I'd say no for me.
I would say no for me too.
Yeah.
But are we? I think this is a two-way conversation.
Totally.
Like, are we doing that to people that we know are already following us, or in our newsletter? Are we asking questions? Are we commenting or messaging some of them too? I think we could do more of that as well.
Yeah. Well, we just had that whole conversation with Sides recently about your relationship with social media. And my relationship with social media is that I just don't like it. I don't spend any time on there, really. Maybe a few minutes a day to see if anybody messaged me and respond to those. But I don't engage in other people's stuff much, and I also don't post anything. So I can't expect there to be comments or, resharing of anything if there's no content for them to do that with. So that's probably should be at the top of this list is, are you posting? Are you putting anything out there?
But all I'm hearing is that no one is commenting on your stuff because it doesn't exist. I should feel worse because it does exist and no one's commenting on it. Is that
well, this can go back to Sides thing again. She said just looking at one new fan at each time, right? I mean, we can't expect there to be an instant growth of any of these categories that we're talking about today. And you should treat fan engagement the same way. It's one fan at a time. I mean, this is one area where I do a good job with is engaging with people at shows and communicating with them and staying in touch with them and that kind of thing. And I do think that has caused my email list to grow, and I get feedback from that and I engage with people there. So there's a lot of ways that you can do this, and it's important that you do something in a way that you like and you enjoy.
It's also fun when you see the same people starting to come back at more shows and make an effort when you do notice that.
Totally. It's funny because it's like you really want it to be in a place that you feel comfortable. And so I guess in that way, I'm making an excuse for myself that I don't enjoy being on a lot of those social media platforms. And if I don't enjoy it, I don't expect my fans to really want to spend time with me there. Right? I mean, I don't know if there's a right answer there, but I do think that there's still room for improvement. I could probably outsource it, which is probably what I should do, is find this balance of creating content and letting someone else post it. Probably my solution to move forward.
Well, yesterday we released a promise that I said for an action step that every post that I make will be along those guidelines that Sides illustrated in that interview. So I better get started on that today. So by the time this is released, we'll have 2 weeks of some notable mentions or DMs.
Well, before we dive in too much on making ourselves feel awful here, let's move on. Let's move on to the next one. Yeah, which is perfect because it's personal goals.
Now, why are we so sad?
This podcast is going downhill. Success looks different for everyone, and that's exactly how it should be. Whether your dream is to tour the world, make a full-time living from music and making music itself, or simply feeling better and more confident with sharing the work that you're doing, your goals are your compass. We all have to identify them, and that is a really important step in moving forward at all, is knowing where you're trying to go. So use this section about personal goals to check in with your vision and your work and how you're working towards and aligning with these actions that you feel like will set your values and your creativity and your purpose in the right line. First thing I'd say is, are you reaching any specific milestones that you're setting for yourself? And those can be things like recording an EP or even a single song, touring, earning a living as a musician. That is a serious achievement and something that we maybe took for granted until we started doing this podcast and finding out how many people just want to be able to make enough money to make music their only thing, right? We're up here complaining sometimes that we don't get to release as much as we want to or whatever, but truthfully, it's easy to forget that that can be a goal in itself. And it's a really, really important goal because it means that you're doing what you want with your time and making money doing that. So it could also be something like just feeling confident on stage. That is a time where I struggled with that. I think everyone goes through that. And you have to set a goal in order for that to ever change, because the first thing you have to do is have the intention that you are going to get past whatever it is.
And those are the things that you're in control of. So do you feel more creative or fulfilled or proud of yourself with the growth that you're achieving? And just how depressed we got, depending on number 5 for the live performance model, we're depending on other people to see our vision, which, would be really nice. But here, these personal goals are something that we can set for ourselves to strive to feel more confident and to grow creatively.
Another part of this for me is whether or not the overall perspective of your life is coming together, right? I do think that there's an organic molding of when you're doing what it is you feel good about doing with your life. I don't know how else to say that except for to say that it feels like what you're supposed to do. And for many of us, we just feel like we're supposed to be musicians, right? We feel like we're supposed to be creative. We're supposed to be creating. And there's always that question, is what you're doing towards that goal of an artist also in line, staying in line with your values and growing with your values and growing with your lifestyle? And what is, as you redefine what success is, what you constantly do, are you doing things to help keep you in alignment for where that is headed?
And that's not based on anybody else's journey. And that's something I think you and I align on a lot over the many years of our friendship. We are not comparing ourselves to other musicians as far as how wealthy they are, successful they are as far as fans, how great of musicians they are. We look at that as something to aspire to and be inspired by. So I think if your goals are your compass, like you said, just focus on the things in your journey that you can control.
And that's really a great point on in my world that I have spent so much time learning to be true, that you compare in it. It's the thief of happiness. It's so hard to get that into your head. You might say something like that, like, oh, comparison is the thief of joy, right? That's the quote. But truthfully, it is. and you can't sit and do an effective session with your personal goals and your personal growth and believing in yourself if you're so caught up in everyone else and what they're doing, because it's not about you once you start doing that. And it really is hard to understand. It's really hard to practice this in an honest way. But this is my other problem with social media, is that it causes it to be even harder for some people. And we just need to be aware that when we're making these personal goals, when we're trying to move forward in these little ways, that it's for us, right? Just like why you wrote that song, just like why you're feeling like playing music, just like why you're listening to this podcast, is it's for you, right? And so it's really important that as you get to this step of the personal goals, that you make sure it's all about you.
And the goals you had last year, which I am realizing now more than ever, they do not match who I am today or my circumstances that are today. So this section is for you to reset, reframe, reimagine what you really want out of your music journey and go for it.
That just made me think of too, is there was this, I was reading a book that was talking about how you forgive yourself. We have to constantly do that. I mean, just the other day when somebody gave me my coffee, and they said, enjoy your coffee. And I said, you too, and I thought I had, they're just giving me a coffee. Why did I say you too?
Because you felt bad when you realized you weren't going to share.
Yeah, right. But that's a silly example, but we're constantly feeling like, before I used to want to write. I was so impulsively writing. I couldn't stop writing. I'd stay up till 2 a.m. writing. Now I have to schedule it, like a doctor's appointment in order to get myself to go there. And I think we can feel really bad about that. I think we can get really on ourselves, like, what's wrong with me now? And so just like not comparing yourself with other people, you need to learn to let go of who you used to be, because you are only who you are now. There is only what is, right? And so making your goals line with who you are now also means letting go of maybe what you thought was important, or that was important to you before.
What's our action steps this week? I feel like we've already given a ton, but what would you say? Number one
for me is to use this list to build your own awareness of your progress. Our goal here is not to make you feel any worse about how progress is going for you. It is more about breaking down small ways to make each of these areas, which kind of covers all the aspects of the business, how to make each of them feel like they're still moving forward in small ways, and to recognize that you are making progress, even sometimes when it kind of feels like it's stagnant, and then it jumps, and then it's stagnant, then it goes down, and letting that flow to occur without judgment by using this small method of checking for little sources of effort and little sources of improvement.
When I was getting ready for today's conversation, I made a PDF that kind of gave actionable items for all of these, and then little pro notes from what you and I had suggested we could do to, make comments on this podcast. So you could find this all just by going to the search bar at musicianstipjar.com and put how to gauge your progress. And I'll have a whole download and little blog there for everyone. You could download it for yourself.
Thanks, Dave.
You're welcome, Chris.
And we know that your time is valuable. We appreciate you spending this time with us here at Musicians Tip Jar. We hope that you feel the sense of community here and that you'll help spread the word to make us all stronger. If you'd like to get a hold of us, what's the best way to do that?
musicianstipjar at Gmail and musicianstipjar.com, where you can check out all the resources and discounts we have collected just for you, and check out all our episodes now on YouTube channel. All future videos will be in 1080, everybody. We went through some back and forth with some video software and some of our friends, honest friends, that shared too much with us about how we just need to upgrade to 1080. So check out all those episodes. And if you find this information useful, please rate and subscribe to the podcast and slam that like button if you're on YouTube, so we can help keep you up on the finance side of your music business.
As always, thank you for joining us. And remember, there is already enough for everyone. We just need to know how to get it. Until next time, on behalf of Dave Tamkin and myself, Chris Webb, stay happy, healthy, and wealthy. Progress for a musician is not measured only in plays or pay, but in peace, presence, and purpose. This is Musician's Tip Jar.
Come on, say that sentence one more time as fast as you can.
Progress for a musician is measured not only in plays or pay, but in peace, process, presence, and purpose. I just added another P.
Nice job. That's the best ending to a podcast we've ever had.
Oh Lord, I could use somebody. I could use somebody. I could use somebody.
Nothing on this show should be considered specific, personal, or professional advice. Please consult an appropriate tax, legal, business, or financial professional for individualized advice. Individual results are not guaranteed, and all discussed strategies have the potential for profit and loss. The hosts are operating on behalf of Musicians Tip Jar LLC exclusively.
Could use a little help here. Could use some help. Could use a little help here.